Good day, everyone. Today we are adding another video to the playlist STEM or STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. And today in particular, we are speaking about how to set the STEM system or STEAM in your school in more practical terms. Now, we all know that this is the age of digital transformation, and digital skills are becoming more and more maximized in our world in almost all industries, and it's happening exponentially in the medicine field, in finance, engineering, e-commerce, etc. And we know that all these fields now rely more than ever on those digital skills. Even small grocery stores now use the digital devices. Now, mobile network operators or the MNOs are accelerating those technological innovations. And we know that back in 2014, there was this great shift to the fourth generation, the 4G long-term evolution, or the LTE. And we have seen how they could, in less than 6 years, develop into employing more and more technological devices and solutions. And they have recently moved to the 5G, the fifth generation long-term evolution. So this digital convergence is happening at a very fast pace, and this exponential growth actually is creating a huge supply and demand gap, and which will also be increased more and more if we continue to have more shortage of women also involved in those fields, mainly in ICT. So the goal now through this STEM series is to shed the light on the importance of having STEM in our schools in any way possible. So whether we find it very difficult to start with, or whether we have already started implementing it, but we want to expand it, this series helps to shed the light on some strategies, some methodologies, some protocols, so that we can have more STEM orientation in our schools, and we can direct more and more learners into STEM careers that will be needed in the future, undoubtedly, and all our learners will need to be part of their preparation for their future success. So previously in the STEM or STEAM playlist was setting foundations, and I have shared two videos, STEM or STEAM education through the O.R.B.I.T.S approach, O.R.B.I.T.S, and assessment and evaluation in STEM or STEAM education. And you can find both of these videos in the playlist. And mainly, I have spoken throughout these videos or presentations, how to have a well-built-in system of STEM education in the school, and more about those strategies, features, misconceptions, etc. If you haven't watched those videos yet, I encourage you to check them, because they lay the foundations for whatever is going to show in this series. I will leave the links at the end of this video and in the description below, so you can have a look at them at the end. Now, today we talk about how to set STEM or STEAM in your school, in your institution, at more practical levels. Or if you have already set STEM, probably these videos will help you with some new ideas how to strengthen it and how to enhance it. So I will briefly start with a quick view over the Digital Economy and Society Index, mainly from the European Commission, just to shed the light on the importance of this digital pathway that we all have to consider, and the need of preparation. Otherwise, countries and many economies and societies will fall behind. So I will be sharing a few figures very quickly in this presentation. First, the targets of the Digital Compass, the European Commission actually summed up all the main factors, 4 main domains: skills, digital transformation of businesses, secure and sustainable digital infrastructures, and digitalization of public services. And here you can have a quick overview of what is expected. For example, in the first domain, the skills, the ICT specialists are expected to become 20 million, including gender convergence, because in one of the reports, it showed that the lack of women has been hindering innovation, and that the presence of women would increase supply and demand and would increase revenue as well. So it means that having more women in the ICT domains can boost as the study showed, can even increase the GDP of the countries by more than 9 billion euros per year. And also, they are very much needed in leadership positions. So here, there has to be a gender convergence by encouraging more women to work in ICT jobs. And we have seen this not just in Europe, in all continents around the world. So what they're trying to do, for example, is they are helping them earn higher salaries, have more flexible schedules, even more, so that they can be less susceptible to lose their jobs as well. So they are providing them with more facilitations, pave the way for more women in the ICT fields. For example, in the digital transformation of businesses, they are expecting 75% of the European companies to use cloud AI and big data. For example, in the secure and sustainable digital infrastructures, they are expecting to have the connectivity reaching everyone, 5G everywhere, 10,000, for example, climate neutral, highly secure edge nodes, etc. Digitalization of public services, 100% key public services to be online. For example, also regarding the digital identity, 80% of citizens using digital ID. So this definitely shows the need of those digital skills and more ICT working women. So also from the same report, adoption of advanced technologies, and we have seen in this figure shows that according to the survey that, for example, only 20 plus are using the cloud, the AI, and less than 20% are using the big data. And this is alarming for Europe. Another figure as well showing the Digital Economy and Society Index member states progress from 2016 to 2021. And it shows 15 countries below average, 9 of them below 50, and only 12 countries above average, only 3 of them or 4 or 5 of them above the 18, which is also alarming, which demands more attention to these fields. Human capital indicators, for example, in DESI, or the Digital Economy and Society Index, and it shows, for example, that we can see here the difference between the percentages from 2019 to 2021. For example, at least those above basic digital skills, for example, 29% to 31%, at least basic software skills it's both in the same percentage range, 58%. But for example, the ICT specialists, and these are the individuals in employment age 15 to 74, 3.8% only in 2019, 4.3% only in 2020, which is a very, very mild increase, and so on. So again, all those are worth of attention. And also, for example, for the planned public funding in quantum technology, only China, the European Union comes the second, China is the first, United States is the third, United Kingdom is the fourth, India is the fifth, and so on. So we can see that there is a shortage as well of those countries, and also a huge variance among these countries in the quantum technologies. And for example, in the Code Week that took place in 2020, we can see the huge discrepancies between those countries. It's only Poland that had this huge number of participants or week activities, more than 20,000, whereas the other countries were so much below that. And this is, again, especially with the Code Week now is a very essential activity for all schools around the world. So this has been a very quick overview of the need to have more technological skills and more technological opportunities. And we cannot do that without having STEM systems in our schools. So the essential engagement planning should incorporate 5 aspects, actually. In other words, if any school wants to start to have the STEM system, or if their school is already implementing STEM, these 5 aspects should be very carefully considered. For example, in the case of leading and teaching, there should be professional development. In the domain of learning, there should be the curricular activities, extracurricular activities or events, challenges, and partnerships. And here we can see that there has to be a context within which STEM is implemented in the school. It cannot just be a tool, because it is not a tool, it is not a curriculum, it is not a methodology. for it to be, and for leaders to say that we have an inbuilt STEM system, there should be a context. So here, in other words, we are not speaking here about leaders or teachers. We are speaking about leading and teaching. We are not speaking about students. We are speaking about learning. So what we are focusing on is not the teachers and the leaders, the learners. We are focusing on the leading, the teaching, the learning, on those processes, because the intention here is to have immersive learning. And here, of course, it's very essential to mention the gender equality, because we do know that there is a less number of female STEM teachers, and some girls in our school, without us noticing, might not show interest. And here, this is our role as teachers, educators, and leaders to draw the attention, our attention to those girls, and try to provide them with any type of incentive so that they are more involved in STEM subjects, because it is our duty as well to make sure that there are more females involved in STEM careers, and to increase, or at least keep the male-female proportions in our schools there, so that we have almost the same number of females and males who are competent in the STEM fields. We cannot be very accurate about this, depends on the gender population, but at least we should not accept less effort from the girls, from our girl learners. So 3 major errors that leaders fall into. The first one is adopting this system concept. And I'm not saying system, because system will obviously have everything implemented, have all the elements implemented. But this is the concept of a system without having the necessary PD, the necessary professional development, and the necessary tools for its implementation and evaluation. The second error is implementing strategies and employing the tools, the devices, the strategies, without ensuring coherence, and I mean among the different domains, and we'll speak about that thoroughly in the coming slides. And the third error is demanding tasks and performance from the stakeholders, mainly here the teachers and the learners, without being responsive to their needs. So that's why we cannot simply say or label it as a system. It should be built in, otherwise we cannot say it is a system. So the elements should be built in first. So the best way to start setting STEM in your institution, or if you want to strengthen it, if it's already existing and you want to strengthen it, is to consider it through the SMART model. And we all know the SMART model. The goals should be direct and detailed and meaningful, that is specific. The goals should be measurable. So we should give our learners, our educators, and the leaders as well, should be given the opportunity to track progress. The goals that we set should also be attainable. By that we mean they should be realistic, and this is the core of this presentation, so that whatever resources we are bringing onto the table, whatever demands for tasks and performance, are within the reach and the capacity of the stakeholders, those people who are directly involved in the implementation. Also, it should be relevant. And here what we mean science, technology, engineering, mathematics with art, it's STEAM. So we're also incorporating art. So there are certain specifics. So whatever activities, whatever tasks, assignments, projects should fall within this range. Also, it should be time-based, means we should have deadlines so that we can move from one step to another, or from one activity to another, or from one goal to another in the most effective way, because time is important when we are working with STEM. Remember that sometimes when we will be incorporating more activities during our school day, we will be using some of the instruction time. So that's why it's very important here to set a certain time span so that we can work accordingly. And for this reason, ask yourself, where does my institution stand? And here, that's why it's very important to represent them by these 3 tiers. That these tiers represent the level of the school in its STEM or STEAM implementation. So if your school has not started yet with STEM, means you will be in tier 1. you're evolving it to tier 2 and tier 3. If your school is already implementing STEM, well, you can here decide where does my institution stand. So tier 1 is mainly this basic level, or what we call, this is the average or developing stage. Tier 2 is the above average or the emerging stage, and tier 3 is this well above average. Obviously, this is the advanced stage. And here we have to consider general criteria. So we can't just say we have a STEM system open-ended like that. Here we have to consider 6 general criteria. Leadership capacity of the institution, and here we mean governance and accountability. We also need to consider the physical capacity of the institution, and by that we mean the space, because you will need space in your school. Some schools are very small and they might not, for example, have the right place to do the labs, or if you want to have some STEM clubs, etc. Digital capacity of the institution, and obviously this is the internet and the innovative technology, and we have to consider that some schools in certain areas, even in the most advanced countries, still do not have the appropriate internet connectivity. The 4th criteria is the financial capacity of the institution, and here we mean by that the budget, what the budget can tolerate and what the school can afford. Professional development capacity of the institution, and this is one of the most major criteria that schools should really focus on, because without professional development, there can be no STEM or STEAM in your school. This is very, very obvious, because there will be certain tasks and certain methodologies and strategies that teachers should know about. And the last criterion is the partnership capacity of the institution. The institution should be open to start partnerships locally or globally. Unfortunately, some schools consider this time-consuming. That's why they do not take this initiative. But to be honest, when you want to incorporate STEM or STEAM in your school, partnership is obligatory, because it is part of expanding this communication. We will be talking about that later. And we can see that as well when it comes to STEM certification. Most STEM certification organizations do not consider the tier 1 as an indicator for STEM certification. According to different systems, it varies, of course, from a system to another. Most of the STEM certifying organizations would consider tier 2 to tier 3 to issue a certification. So to know where our institution stands, we can do this quick study to know, for example, STEM by tier, in which tier we are in. Is it tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3? And definitely we will be using the general criteria to study that. And on a scale, for example, it can be 0 to 5 or 0 to 4 or 0 to 10. This should be done based on research, based on some data that is collected in the school, and this will give more accuracy in identifying where the school stands, because some schools might think that they are in tier 2 while on ground they are on tier 1, or probably they think they are in tier 1 while on ground they are on tier 2. So this would be very helpful to do this quick study. And we can also do this quick study by for example, considering STEM by criteria. For example, if we want to evaluate our leadership or our physical capacity or the professional development capacity. Now, whether we are here, it depends. If we haven't still set STEM in our school, obviously we will be in tier 1. If we have already been implementing STEM, for example, 2 years, minimum of 2 years, 3 years, then we can have a more accurate depiction of leadership, for example, of digital capacity, for example. So this way, we, through the research, through the data that we are collecting, through those indicators, we can better know where we stand. Because the moment that we know where we accurately stand, will be the first step towards enhancement and advancement the way we want.